years, my family probably thought, what is her obsession with these big fire-breathing dogs? But our dogs are extremely hard on equipment. So that's been great because we say, well, we can use it with Malamutes. It's bomb-proof. We like to think that our passion for the dogs comes across. That's the most important thing.
Welcome back to another episode of a Kiwi Original. And on today's show, I'm speaking with the owner of Real Dog Company, Rose Voice, who specializes in the things that dogs need, and particularly those super hungry ones, the Alaskan Malamutes, and all the needs that they have that maybe your stock standard ordinary dog at home doesn't need. So welcome to the show, Rose.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Now, you've got a really cool manufacturing kind of background there. Is this your actual workshop that we're looking at right now?
Yes, it is. This is where it all happens. We built a purpose-built, it's just a total span shed converted at home on the property. I mean, for years I worked out of bedrooms and bits and pieces. So this is our workshop, and it's also a shop. People can come in if they're passing in this rural part of the world. They can come in and purchase straight from us.
And I see you've got what looks like a log fire there. So because you're based down a little bit further south than us North Island dwellers, aren't you?
Yes, we're in the heart of Central Otago in an area called the Maniatoto, which is we're about halfway between Naseby and Ranfurly, almost 2,000 feet above sea level. So we get a lot of snow. Hence, we came here for the dogs.
So the dogs came first, and then you chose where you lived because of the dogs.
That's right, correct.
Did they get to choose the house?
Sorry?
Did they get to choose the house as well?
No, they're definitely not house dogs. Until they get really old, then they can wobble around inside. But they, we have 20 odd dogs here, and they're very much pack dogs. So they like to be outside in the cold.
Now, there's a lot of differences, isn't there, with these types of dogs, these Alaskan Malamutes. Maybe explain to the audience, what's different about these dogs from, your standard Labrador or poodle or, the lap dog you might have in your house?
Well, they are different. They're not for the faint-hearted. And I think for years, my family probably thought, what is her obsession with these big fire-breathing dogs? Because they're a pack animal. The name of the business actually came about, the Real Dog Equipment Company. Real Dog Company encompasses our tourism side as well. But the Real Dog Equipment Company came from my family. My parents had Jack Russells, and it was a standard joke. I have real dogs and they don't. So hence it came. But everybody's dog's a real dog. But our dogs are extremely hard on equipment. So that's been great because we say, well, we can use it with Malamutes. It's bomb-proof. We can guarantee it 100%. And it's really nice to be able to stand behind that and know that it's good stuff.
What got you into the actual manufacturing of the dog accessories to start with? I mean, obviously you had your own need, but surely you could have just bought something on the market already.
Yeah, well, because my passion was sled dogs, running my dogs in harness, and to buy sled dog equipment back then, we're talking almost 20 years ago, even now, you import it all from Alaska and the States. And of course, when the dollar changed, it became a bit, for a hobby. And at that stage, I was still working in an operating theatre, and I sort of thought, surely I can make this. So I started making a few things for my dogs, and then there was a wee local market, and I thought, I can sell a few things. And then people started asking me for things for their dogs, and it just sort of grew, really.
What was the first product you made and sold?
Probably collars and leads, and of course the sled dog harnesses, which are a real, they're a custom built specific item.
And are these the harnesses? Is that so that the pack dogs as a group can run together as a group with basically towing you behind. Is that how it works?
Yes, it is, and it's because it's really important. They're athletes; everything has to fit properly. So it was a big learning curve. I mean, I wasn't a sewer by trade. You know, I worked in operating theatre and emergency medicine for years. So it was, getting my hand around a sewing machine was a bit of a, I think I had more respect for the sewing machine than the anaesthetic machine, to be fair. But now, interestingly enough, the sleep dog side of our business, I'll never let that go because that's where I started and where my passion is. But that's probably only 10% of our business now. That the rest of it is all sorts of dogs, everything from little Poochie in the backyard to police dogs, search dogs. We outfit a lot of the biosecurity dogs at Auckland Airport, Wellington. We make a lot of gear for DOC, for all the predator dogs, that sort of thing.
Because I noticed on your website that there was some products that I wasn't expecting to find. I mean, the dog collars and the ropes and leads, sure, but high-vis vests and dog backpacks, who uses those things?
Well, we seem to have had a run of dog backpacks at the moment, and as you can imagine, they're quite a job to put one together and sew it the way we want it made, so it's robust. A lot of hunters use them. There's a Kiwi, Greg Dooley, that does the hunting and fishing show on TV. He uses our backpack, so it's fantastic. I mean, he thrashes them, and we get a lot of custom from that. But hunters, some people get a backpack just to take the dog to the dairy.
Why does a dog need a backpack? What goes in the backpack for the dog, and does the dog get a say in what goes in?
Well, they can carry their own food. I mean, dogs hunting, they need to carry water. I think people underestimate when you're on the tops, there's not enough water for the dogs and they dehydrate. So, but we do a bit of packing in the summer with ours when it's too hot to run them in harness. And it's over the years, it's been a great thing for the kids to be involved with because they can come out and walk a dog. I haven't trusted them with my wine yet, no. Not the kids, though. I mean, the dog's carrying it.
Tell me if this is true, because my girlfriend said to me that when a dog wears a backpack, they feel like they're contributing and they become happier because they're looking around at the adults and the other dogs and going, yeah, I'm carrying my share. Is that true, or is that just a story?
I think it's in a roundabout sort of way. She's probably hit the nail on the head. I mean, a working dog, any dog that's from a working background needs to have a job. And they're a great training tool too, because if you have a dog that's not listening and it's not focusing on its training, you put a backpack on, it's already doing a job. So all of a sudden I'm working now, I'm with you, and they learn twice as fast.
That is interesting. So
yeah, it is.
Where did you come up with these product ideas? Was people coming to you knowing that you had the expertise in what the standard products are for dog accessories, or did you see opportunities to introduce new things to the New Zealand marketplace?
Well, I think probably initially most of these items weren't available in New Zealand, and probably aren't unless you import them from offshore. But because we use the packs, like the first couple I made, we went out and they rolled on the dog, or they didn't hold enough, or they rubbed in a certain place. So we've sort of worked through the system, and it's really great now. When people ask us a question, we can say straight away, well, no, this works because we use it and we know how it works. Some things I had seen over the years, or the great old internet looked at things, and I've just adapted the patterns myself, and they're always changing though. I mean, things are always developing, and we have people come back and say, look, mine tended to wear here or do this, and we said, well, we'll fix that. So we do it for all of them. So feedback's good.
How do customers find out about the Real Dog Company? How do you get your products to market? And because you've been around for some time now, and it's probably changed. Yes. What's
it has. In the beginning, we used to go to all the little local things like the AMP shows and the wee craft store down the road, and that was great for feedback because you always talk to people and they come up and say, oh, I love your gear. I mean, that hasn't changed. Our biggest outing now is probably Mystery Creek once a year, and that's huge for us. That's just, massive. But I don't really advertise hard copy anymore, like magazines. Everyone wants to write a story about our dogs because they're so photogenic. So we've been quite lucky that we've got through on the tails of that. But I mainly use social media. The good old Facey is just amazing to targeting advertising. And of course, we've always sort of said, we're Kiwi made, we make everything. But of course now it's become, the Kiwi New Zealanders are just taking that on board 150%, which is fabulous.
It's a big shift, isn't it? And I think the opportunities, and I'm glad you've mentioned the Facebook targeting, because no matter what people think about whether it's a good platform or bad platform from a society perspective, anything that's got 27,000 data points on an individual, where you could use just 4 or 5 to go, okay, I want female 35 to 45 who owns or loves pets, who lives in regional New Zealand where the temperature is on average 5 degrees lower than the national. You can find all that stuff out. So it's if there's a business not doing that, then you're at a disadvantage to your competitor that is.
Yeah, it's I can see the feedback straight away if I geographically pinpoint an area, and I might say hit hiking, dogs, backpacking, or another time it's like we make a lot of training harnesses and collars for farmers. And I can see where those orders are coming from, and it's really, it's quite exciting platform to work with, I think.
And I think to not to blow my own trumpet, but the whole, the New Zealand made logo, when that's seen on the social news feed, Kiwis recognize it. And so they know that you're not one of the businesses that are just importing something that's made in China and then using social media to try and do sales. And I think now is an opportunity more than ever to label marketing campaigns with that little Kiwi.
Yes, I agree. And I think we've noticed recently, people have become so much more discerning about, they will up front and say to you, is it really made here, or do you just own the company and you have it made in China? And being able to front up to that and show your logo and say, well, I don't think a lot of people understand that you have to have a license to show that logo, but just being able to prove to people that it is New Zealand made and that we've got a story, it's great. Pretty proud to be able to do that.
And it's amazing then looking into your workshop right now, because it's just so obvious. You cannot make that up. It's the real deal. And even by how you say some of your, like ours, my family is from the deep south, and I'm like, that sounds like my grandma.
Oh wow. That's pretty cool. Well, we have a lot of customers that'll be on holiday, maybe down around Queenstown, and we're about an hour and a half, and they'll take a bit of a dog leg in their holiday and they'll drive over to see us because they've been buying our gear for a few years. And it's funny because they walk in the door and they look around and they sort of, is this it? I don't know what they're expecting, but it's a real family business, and there's just the two of us. And it's pretty long hours, especially at the moment, but we're not complaining. We are very, very busy, but it's good.
Sorry to interrupt. This won't take long. Subscribe to the show and you'll never miss another one of these amazing episodes. Right, back to the show. So it's you and your husband, Nigel. What does he bring to the business? How does he complement what you do?
Well, he spent 22 years in the police. And he, it had probably come to the end of his time of needing to be working, and we wanted to move away from, move to where we are now. And he's a 100% perfectionist, and I was always a bit, because it was just me for a start, I was quite nervous about letting anyone else make anything because it wouldn't be done to my standard. But of course now he'll pull up my things and say, this doesn't look very tidy, you need to up your game a bit. So he's a real perfectionist. He sits at a sewing machine. He probably does 80% of the sewing. And I know occasionally some of his colleagues from police might call in on their way through, and I can see them looking at him sitting at his sewing machine. But, it's a great lifestyle. We're very lucky, what we have here.
There's a lot of creativity that comes from those machines too, those sewing machines, their ability to do certain patterns.
Absolutely.
And it's more than a craft. It is a real science to put together the materials and the sewing elements, particularly for for your end product. It's going it's not going to a human as such that can look after it. It's going to a dog, and a dog is going to roll in mud. It's going to roll in. It's going to do what a dog does. There's no, you can't give an instruction label to a dog and say, please adhere to these rules. So what do you think your product, how have you kind of ensured that it will survive all of those types of instances?
Well, I think right from the very start, I've used like all stainless steel, brass, top of the line products. The webbing we use is actually a rated 2 and 3 ton climbing sling webbing. I mean, it's a way overkill for a dog, but it's a beautiful product. And we obviously use as much as we can New Zealand made base raw materials. We do a lot of rope work. Nigel learned how to do all the Samson splicing for marine braids, which is a real art. And there was a lot of cursing and swearing when he was learning, but now he's got it. And all that rope's made in Christchurch, a company, Nautilus Braids. And he, and we're very proud to use good quality rope from that. So
it's each of those little details that I love to hear from manufacturers is that you could have chosen something that would have just done the job. And sometimes it would break and you'd get another sale. But it's not true to why you do what you do, which is if you're going to have the best dog, you might as well have the best dog equipment, right?
That's right. And, one of the proudest things is we'll be at something like, down at Waimumu Field Days in Gore. And we had a farmer come up to us and he had this really old, dirty, manky collar that he'd had probably from one of the first ones I ever made. And he said, it's outlived 3 dogs and I've come all the way here to give it back to you so you can use it as a demo of how good it is. He says, and that's the comment most people make is, well, I don't need to buy anything because it doesn't wear out and it doesn't break. So that's awesome.
So moving forward, so over the next, year or two, what then drives the business in terms of either your product innovation or opening up new markets? What's your kind of looking ahead?
Well, we're always open to new ideas, and we do a lot of custom work. Although at the moment we sort of feel we're getting less and less time to put into that custom work, but we certainly, we'll keep getting new products on board as people come to us and say, well, look, like agility dog people came and said, we really need this sort of toy, but no one makes it. And we make a possum tail, which is a good use of a possum tail, and we put it on a wee stretchy handle, and it's a great treat toy for dogs. And that was something someone came to us and wanted. With all the rope splicing, we're probably doing more and more horse handling ropes. Our daughter rides, so that became a bit of a focus to do a little bit of horse work as well.
Because it's a tough one to balance, isn't it? When you've got a good product range that's working really well, and you could actually focus more on actually making the product or selling the product, or do you then branch out into other products and know that if they're successful, then you've got to do even more marketing for those different products and more making for those different products. That's kind of a hard balance, I think, for any business where you're making and doing all the selling. Right.
Because it's to keep reminding ourselves that there's only 2 of us. And we went not last year, the year before, I went to an interview at the Central Otago. They have an Enterprise and Business Award, which consequently we won. But when I went to the interview and they're all sitting on the board and they were asking me what we do, and I'm talking about the all the different places that we send our gear to and the contracts for the dogs and that. And one woman looked at me and she said, "And you do all that? Just you and your husband?" And it sort of brought home to me that, yes, we do. We can't really extend because we have made a commitment that it will be just us and the business to preserve our lifestyle. But, yes, things are busy.
Well, you're obviously doing very well, because when you're busy, it means that that's a signal, right? That not only are people wanting to support New Zealand made, but it means that your product actually works. And I think that's a big thing to get right, particularly with animals. It's, animals and children, it takes a long time to evolve those products. Anyone can launch something overnight, but to get repeat sales over time, that only comes from trust and brand credibility. So Real Dog Company must have that out there. How do people buy your products, both online and is it in stores or just online?
Well, we're mainly online. We do have our little shop attached in our workshop here. People can come in and purchase things, because we also have another part of our business is our tourism. We run kennel tours, and this season we're not doing rides with the dogs because with the whole COVID thing and that and we're just too busy with the manufacturer side. But we have a lot of people that come in and spend time. We talk about the business. When we first invited tourists to do that, we thought it was all about the dogs, but it's not. They want to know where we live, where our children go to school, our lifestyle, and that's been a great platform to talk about the business and, the Kiwi sort of ingenuity and everything. People are very interested in it.
It's that whole experience, isn't it? Like if you just ride, I've done the Alaskan Malamutes in Sälen in northern Sweden. So very cold, -30, -35 degrees, and the dog handler, we were sitting on the back, and then he said, "Would you like to ride them? Like, would you like to actually, run with them, drive them?" Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll give it a go." And he said, "You've got to stand on this piece of wood, because that's the brake that's going to go into the ice, and they won't be able to move as long as you're standing on that." And as soon as we were off, and I let go of that, the power was just unbelievable. And
it is remarkable.
And not knowing how to slow down, because there's no brakes to pull with your hands. You have to stand back on that piece of timber. And I didn't realize to start with that it paid to do that before any snow hills. And the first hit that we hit, and the dogs all jumped over, and we just flew. We flew over the edge of this, and the guy's looking back. He goes, "Brake." So do you actually do that part down in Canterbury as well? Can you go and do the actual tours, or is that?
Well, we do. We have a concession to use up in Naseby Forest, which is we do get a lot of snow here. That's about 10k up the road. But we also do dry land on the rigs. We have a wheeled rig, and Nigel will run 6 or 8 dogs, and we take 2 people at a time. And it's, again, we cater probably our prices. We cater more to the Kiwi family, because you can do a similar thing over at Queenstown, but it's completely a different operation to what we do. We have a lot of close contact with the dogs. People can come out to the kennel, cuddle them and have a bit of a play, and then help put the harnesses on and whatnot.
Is that something that Kiwis will be able to do when we get to level 1? Is that the plan?
Yes. We at the moment we're planning, I think, just to do the kennel tours, which is still a great experience, and perhaps not the rides. We'll see how things go into winter, but at the moment, the manufacturer side of the business has just been supported so well with our fellow Kiwis. We're because the tours take Nigel out of the workshop all morning. It's a lot of time away. It's just finding a balance for everything.
Yeah, and it's not the type of thing that you can employ someone to do, because they're your dogs and they trust you.
And we want people to have the very, very best experience and get the best of us when they're here. And we like to think that our passion for the dogs comes across. That's the most important thing.
I love it. Is there anything I haven't asked you about, Rose, before we finish up?
Oh, I don't know. You can ask me what you like. No, I don't think there's anything. I think also, the one thing I'm also quite passionate about is rurally. I mean, we live in the middle of nowhere, and, growing rural communities and being able to run a business like this, all I need is a courier, excuse me, and internet. And I think, people should look outside the big cities to run a business.
Well, it gives you so many more opportunities, particularly for manufacturing, because you get more square meterage, you get a lifestyle element to it, you get a lower cost of living as well, and all of that flows through, to every product you sell. There's a small competitive advantage in doing that, and when you are,
right. Well, we had a number of years ago, I entered the Rural Women's Enterprising Award, and their brief was to talk about the problems that you have found operating your business rurally. And I thought, well, actually, we came here so our children could grow up in a small rural community and for the cold for the dogs. So I sort of turned it around and said, well, actually, these aren't problems. They're all assets as far as I'm concerned.
It's all how you look at it. And I think whenever I hear problems, I just hear opportunities, because problem equals pain. And if you can alleviate pain for someone, there's value in that, and you can attach a monetary value if you want to.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, what's the website, just one final time, so that if anyone is listening and is thinking, I need a dog backpack or a dog collar, or maybe to book in a tour for towards the end of the year, what's the right website?
It's pretty simple. Realdog.co.nz.
Simple as. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Rose. Say hello to Nigel, and I'll make sure let you get back to your manufacturing so you can keep that work-life balance going.
Indeed. Thank you very much, and good work what you're doing with the Buy New Zealand campaign. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. There's been a massive shift with Kiwis, particularly through COVID. So long may it continue for our local manufacturing. This is what we need. This has been a Kiwi original brought to you by the New Zealand Made team. Thanks for watching. The New Zealand Made trademark is used by over 1,200 businesses in New Zealand. The New Zealand Made team licenses that trademark. Check if you're eligible at bynz.org.nz. If you feel that someone should see this, share it with them now. Otherwise, subscribe to youtube.com/bynzmade, and we'll see you on the next episode.